Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Splash and Go podcast on the Deep Threat Sports Network. I'm Josh. That's Marty. You know us from every week. We're here this week to talk about an amazing race at Miami this weekend. Tyler Reddick with a movie finish at the end on the last lap. Homestead, probably the best race we've seen all year. There was a lot of ups and downs. There was a lot of passing. I think they had the most lead changes in track history there. It was an amazing race. Marty, what do you think about this Homestead race?
It delivered what I knew it could possibly deliver. You never know. Sometimes we go to Homestead and everybody's single file right along the wall, but you do have drivers searching for grip. I think that this was best possible case scenario where you had the people that were going to be dominant along the wall, but you could get good enough runs to where you could pass on the bottom. So it was a very exciting race, and it was a very good race. I mean, this race, in my opinion, just knocked it out of the park. It's one of the best races I've seen in quite some time, in my opinion, because, like you said, you had a lot going on there. You had a lot of comers, you had a lot of goers, you had some people that would come, that could get runs on the long run. You saw varied strategies. You saw a lot in this race. You saw pit road mishaps. You saw really a little bit of everything. We got some long green flag runs. We didn't get too long of green flag runs. I thought it was just a great race. You had one driver blow a tire, slap the wall, get redemption, and then lose it all over again. It was an exciting race. I've loved everything about it. I wish Homestead, and I don't want to be. Everybody's going to say it. You know what I'm getting ready to say, but I wish that our championship was still at Homestead. Everybody knows that. I mean, that's no surprise to anybody at this point. I understand why NASCAR does it, though. They want to go to a place where you have as little few variables as possible. And I feel like Phoenix, you're just not in the hugest rain threat as you are in Miami, Florida. That's the only thing that I can think of is they feel like the climate's going to be pretty consistent where they currently have the championship. And I think that that's by design at times. So I'm upset. Can you imagine that was for, if you had four of the best, if you had your top four, your championship four in the top five at the end of that race, and you have a last lap, what that would have done for the sport if that was a championship. I mean, just put that. That's the way that I kind of flip that. Look at what it could have been because it's the best track we have, in my opinion, or one of the best. It is completely in the conversation, in my opinion. Homestead is one of the best tracks on the NASCAR circuit. Has been for a couple years, in my opinion. That's.
I completely agree with you. It was some of the best driving we've seen in a long time. I think Jeff Gluck put a survey out on his Twitter, and I think it had over 94% did you like this race? And it's up in like the top three races since he's been doing that survey every week after the race. So I think it goes to show that that track, if they're not going to make it the final race of the championship, I think they need to race it twice in a season. I think as NASCAR fans, we deserve that to see that kind of driving at least twice in one season. Give me a night race there on a Saturday. I'd be more than happy to watch it. It was pretty exciting seeing as we are in the playoffs. It's crunch time. Like you were saying, there was different strategies these guys were taking. I really noticed in turns one and two, these guys were hanging a little low, and then when they went into three and four, they were taking the high line and coming out off the wall. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love the race from start to finish. To be completely honest, so I'm happy with everything that I saw. We we saw just some really good driving that I think that if you can continue to grow off this, I think that this next gen car becomes a complete success as long as you can fix the short track package. The road course package, in my opinion, kind of is what it is. I don't. This is an oval series. I know people get upset with that. I know there's a lot of people that like seeing a lot of road courses. I'm not one of them. I'm an oval guy. That's just how I like watching my racing. And I like the two road courses back when it was only two, when it was Watkins Glen and Sonoma, because it was different. And some better road course drivers got to showcase their skills, but they only got two races for it. So I'm fine with whatever. But this is a great racetrack, and this car is doing well at it. You can hit the wall when you're running the high line here, and it be a little bit more forgiving than some of the cars in the past. So I think that's why I think you maybe even heard Larson say it before, like, hey, this car, because it used to be Kyle Larson would run well here, then he'd get in the wall too hard, and it would pretty much end his day back when he was in the 42 car. So he's alluded to it that this car is tough enough to where you can run the high line, and if you don't make too hard a contact, it doesn't hurt you that much. So speaking of which, we've talked about how Reddick won in just an impressive fashion. Uh, that last lap pass you mentioned, you made a little note of it. It was a movie, like a pass from the movie. It's like a pass from like Days of Thunder, something Tom Cruise downshifting to go into the high line and passing Russ Wheeler at Darlington
Light
or something ridiculous.
Lightning
Yeah,
McQueen, the
Lightning
last
McQueen. There
lap.
you go.
It was, I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any
Yeah,
better. It was awesome. And watching the race, I didn't see him coming out of turns one and two get around Hamlin like that. I was more focused on Blaney, and I was jumping up and down that Blaney had taken the lead from Hamlin. And to see him come and Blaney essentially give him the high line going into three and four and come around him, the excitement that I saw Tyler Reddick having in his car was about the same I had here in my living room when I was freaking out watching it. And it was pretty awesome to see. Michael Jordan, super proud of his team. Tyler Reddick, super proud. I don't think they could hold the censor button down enough while he was in car. There was some F-bombs flying around like crazy. He had also won stage one, so
yeah,
he had a fast car, and he kind of got fortunate there with that last caution that he had pitted late and stayed out after that caution, and it kind of set him up. I kind of thought that it might have put him in a bad spot at first when that caution came out. That caution came out for, was that Larson spinning?
yep, I believe so. Yeah, Larson was running for the lead, and we can get into that story later. But I mean, he has what most would consider a trash day going for him, and then he somehow keeps clipping his way going forward, and then yeah, we'll get to all that. But yes, you are correct. That was the caution.
Yeah. And I we talked about how, pretty much this whole playoffs how a regular season champion wasn't really performing like the regular season champion had been should be performing. And we really saw on Sunday at Homestead Tyler Reddick show up and do what we've been expecting of him all these playoffs. And it was pretty amazing to see. And I told you the other day, like I'm fully rooting for him to win the championship, all the whole thing. I want to see him take the playoffs. I really want to see 23-11, set some records. So it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I can point to and say that I dislike in Tyler Reddick. And the fact that Michael Jordan's one of his owners makes it pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for him. It was a great pass. I feel bad for Blaney. He made a judgment call, in my opinion. And I know that people are going to armchair quarterback that a lot and say, man, he should have went high. But I think he was expecting more, possibly. And I don't know. I was thinking Tyler Reddick was going to try to dive bomb, and he didn't. And he just stuck with the high line. It just got right around him and just drove off on the race. I mean, it was just spectacular. I didn't see it as that big of a threat. So, I mean, I know people in hindsight, and I mean, I said it too. Like, I think you have to make your decision if you're just going to go low or high there. I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm not a race car driver. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think he put himself in a position where his car didn't really work very good, and he didn't get any benefit. He get the benefit of staying up high. He didn't get the benefit of going down low to cut the corner the quickest way around the track. He just kind of went a few lanes down, and it's almost like he bogged out. I mean, did it kind of seem that way to you?
Yeah. And we talked about it last week how Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson are really comfortable running the boards there. And maybe he didn't think that Reddick was going to have that kind of speed coming off the boards. They were also talking about Blaney's car earlier in the race was kind of flat on its face until he got it into the long runs, and that's when he was able to start pulling away from people and start making passes. So I don't know if he was, if maybe it was just the car was underperforming for him. I mean, he seemed to get around Hamlin in under 2 laps with ease, it seemed like. So I don't know. Maybe he didn't think Tyler Reddick had that good of a run on him.
Well, and I also don't want to take anything from Tyler Reddick. I mean, Tyler Reddick did exactly what he needed to do to win this race, and he went out and took it. There was no, like you said, he didn't want to stage. He clearly had one of the fastest, if not the fastest car this weekend. I think you can make the case of them winning the
Mhm.
pole and how many, him winning a stage. I think you can make a very fair case that he had the fastest car here. Just, throughout the course of a race, people get shuffled back. And the difference between fourth and first is unbelievable. I mean, it's almost, you see, it almost seems like it's the same. All those top five cars are always going to be hard to get around. So if you get shuffled back a little bit, sometimes it takes you. He was not going to win this race, probably. Maybe he
Mhm.
would have. I don't know. You never know what would happen if it went green, but they had to re-rack it and give him that chance, and he went out and took it. I don't know. It was awesome to watch. That's for sure. As a fan, it was spectacular.
It
I
was.
I was like you. I wasn't even paying attention to him going in that final corner. I was talking out loud to Ryan Blaney because I didn't want Denny Hamlin to win. So I was like coaching Blaney out loud in my living room. Everybody else was laughing at me. I'm like, Blaney, do this, do that. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's good. Like, I don't think Hamlin can get a run from you there. And then here comes Tyler Reddick just zipping around the outside, makes zero contact with the wall, just drives nice and smooth, just rips around everybody and just goes and wins the race by like a pretty wide margin. And I'm
It
just
was
like, what?
beautiful.
Well, okay. I didn't have that on my bingo card entering that corner necessarily. Not
I
like
th
that, at least. Not like that.
I think this finish will be something we talk about for quite some time, honestly. I
Yeah.
would say, in my opinion, in the Gen 7 car, it might be probably one of the best finishes I've seen in the Gen 7 car. I think it will be talking about this for years to come, especially if he goes on to win, the
Oh, yeah,
championship. I
for
mean,
sure.
this is definitely going to go down as, you know, probably one of the better finishes.
Yeah, you
And
never want to jinx a guy, but you're right. If he goes out and wins the whole deal after this, they'll forever link that trophy with that pass.
yeah,
Forever. And it would be awesome if that did happen. It'd just be good for the sport. It'd be good for Tyler. I like Tyler Reddick. Seems like a really good dude. Seems like
yeah.
a down to earth fella.
The monster car was a little ugly this weekend. I
Oh,
wish he
you
would
didn't
have
like
been.
it? See, I kind of liked it.
I thought I get it. It's like maybe it was the Halloween stuff,
Yeah.
coming up. But I wish he would have been in that Jumpman again. I like that Jumpman car.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's an awesome
Who
paint scheme.
doesn't?
I agree with you there. Yeah. But yeah, he went out and just did good for Tyler Reddick. I'm very happy for him. It's great that we're going to get to see him in the final four, but that does put some other drivers in some pretty bad positions. So we could go ahead and I guess mention that, Joe Logano's safe. He finished 28th in the race. Didn't look very impressive, but I think, you and I have talked. Wouldn't be surprising to me if they were working on some random stuff and didn't necessarily want to run good. They just want to go work on a few things here and there and completely prepare for Phoenix because why wouldn't you? It worked last time.
Mhm.
So until I'm defeated in that method, I think I'm going to go right back to it. If I'm
Yeah.
Paul Wolf, enjoy Logano. So it doesn't concern me that he finished back there. It doesn't surprise me. I'm not worried at all about Joey Logano going
No,
into Phoenix. Everybody's still sweating him. I don't care who you are. Everybody's nervous with Joey Logano going to that Final Four.
he does good at
So,
Phoenix. He's got some history at Martinsville. Um, I will say, aside from Joey Logano, I'm kind of worried. You said you wanted to get into Larson before. I'm gonna let you get into Larson. I'm gonna segue into that, but there's a solid chance we don't see a Hendrick car in the Final Four, and that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. Denny Hamlin or Ryan Blaney gets a win and gets some really good stage points this weekend. They could easily bump these guys out. It it would be hard for both of them to get in, but we both know Denny Hamlin does well at Martinsville. if he gets a win, he could bump out Byron, and we don't have any Hendrick cars in there. But let's get back onto Larson, about his race this weekend before we move on to Martinsville. Marty, why don't you tell me everything that went down and kind of his strategy that kind of backfired on him there towards the end of the race?
Yeah, I was I was doing something. I was getting ready for something. We were having some family over, and I just hear the commentators talk about how Carl Larson just got in the wall, and I look over and they're already showing a replay of it. He blows a right rear and slaps the wall, and I thought he slapped it pretty hard. I don't know how you felt about it. I didn't feel like it was light contact.
So I didn't see it live on TV. I had the race on my TV. They might have been at a commercial when it initially happened, but I did have his YouTube pulled up
That's what it was. My
because
dad saw it on YouTube. That's what
they
it
had the
was.
onboard and
Yeah,
they were shooting down the back. The camera was facing the back of the car, and I just saw a smoke trail behind the car. I think I texted you guys and I was like, Larson just went in the wall because I'm pretty sure it was at a commercial break when it happened,
yeah. I
which
think
is
you're right.
lovely in a playoff race, a commercial break, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
digress.
I think you're right because my dad maybe it cut out a commercial, and I was like, "Oh man, the 5 car hit the one." He's like, "Yeah, I saw it on your phone." So thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. I'm glad NASCAR did that. Just a quick shout out to them. I like how they'll set out these polls every now and again, and you get to pick who's onboard camera you can watch from their live stream on YouTube, which I think is pretty cool. So Larson's, of course, at Homestead won. So we were graced with that lovely presence. That was fun to watch. But yeah, so he blows a right rear, hits the wall hard, and I could tell that the fact that they weren't changing like a toe link or anything like that was a good sign. Cliff Daniels didn't seem nervous. They checked the toe a couple times. You saw the crew do that, and everything looked squared away there. So I think he just got now. I'm sure it didn't help the car, although you do hear drivers say, "Oh man, this one time back to this one track back in like 1997, I plowed the wall, just knocked the right front off it, and the thing drove great." You hear stories like that every now and again, but I don't think it made the car drive better. And I think you heard him talk about how now he's not in fourth, fifth, third, second. Now he's back in the low 30s, high 20s, trying to race his way back up to the pack. That obviously took some time, but lo and behold, we come down to the end of this race and he's starting to clip some spots off and he's right there again and he's going for the win. And this is what I like about Kyle Larson. I think a lot of drivers there, especially in his position, play that safer, and he doesn't. He takes that risk. He's exciting to watch. He completely loses it, spins out. I think he got lucky. I think the gap was big enough to where I think he was still technically in like third. But he then drift back towards the end of this race. But he doesn't finish as well as he should. But the fact that he goes for that win in that scenario with a car that he didn't really like that much after he knocked the wall down. It doesn't drive as good. What do you know? I thought that was exciting. I couldn't believe it. I wish he would have won. That would have been really cool. But I'm not upset that Tyler Reddick won either. So this was just a win-win for me. It was such a good track. It was such a good race. I could talk about it probably for days. So I'm going to force us to move on here. Josh, you had mentioned something to me that I thought was kind of neat. You want to talk about the 7 car curse here a little bit. The Justin
Oof.
Haley rolling around there and Corey LaJoie's X ride, and you think it might be cursed.
It might be a curse, man. It might not be lucky number 7. At this point, I'm not thinking it's the driver. I think that there's something with their setup on the car that they must not be doing something right, for the car to be performing like this. Now I know Haley's new in the car, so there's a learning curve, but we're 4 or 5 races into it. These are spec cars. There isn't a huge difference between each car other than your setups. So I don't know. We kind of like to give Corey LaJoie some grief just about every week amongst ourselves on the internet. And I see a lot of fanfare. I saw there was a bunch of memes like Marge like yelling like Bart no, and it said
Yeah,
LaJoie no, and then Bart was standing behind her. It was pretty funny. So I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on because Haley spun twice. Now he didn't take anybody out, which was good,
First one
but
was a miracle, by the way. I
yeah.
mean, it's just people don't even have the juices flowing yet. They've just tightened their belts, and here he is just streaking across the track sideways
Yeah.
in
And
front of a lot of people. Everybody
Elliot's
did.
wearing his brown pants all of a
Oh,
sudden.
yeah, yeah. You sent a text that said Elliot's wearing his brown pants, and I was like, "You are correct." Because I mean, I don't know how all those people missed that, but they did a very good job. That could have been a lap one freaking disaster. Is what
Oh
that
yeah.
could have been. And nobody wants that. But the thing that I will say about Justin Haley is it does seem like I'm noticing that car more often. I'm noticing it up towards, you'll see it at times in the top 10, whether it be strategy or they don't, it's hard to finish these. I think the big thing to note is it's hard to finish these races. At the end of these races, you know, everybody bears down and everybody's there to get everything that they can. And with some of these teams that are developing, that's where you really see them get beat. That's where every team grabs an extra gear going towards the end of these races. The pit stops are perfect. The drivers giving up less. Uh, they're really driving in the corners. They're getting everything they can out of their tires. That's where you see some of these smaller developing teams like Spire start to fade a little bit. So I'm not surprised that he's not getting the finishes. I mean, yesterday sucked. I mean, I think Justin Haley would sit there and say that, man, my race at Homestead sucked. Um, I am noticing that team up front more, just like I noticed Rick Ware racing up front more when Justin Haley was driving. I think they're poised to be good. I think when Rodney Childers gets over there, I think that's gonna be exciting to see what he can get out of Justin Haley. I think it's possible that that team could possibly become a competitor one day. It just depends. They're spending a lot of money, so we'll see. But yeah, you're right. He's had some bad finishes in that car, but I'm still optimistic, cautiously optimistic, as you kind of have to be in these scenarios. But I guess we'll go ahead and we'll talk about this one thing that kind of caught me off guard was Chase. Every driver, really, except for the 22, showed up here in our top eight, and they were putting on a clinic. But the one thing that I thought kind of shocked me was Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney both finished in the top five. Chase Elliott finishes in fifth, Ryan Blaney in second, and they're still seventh and eighth on the cut line. So they did everything they kind of needed to do, at least at the end of the race. They ran well and they did not get the win. And you see now everybody's running so good that now the difference is literally just a handful, a couple points here. Throw them out there. That's why we'll talk about it later, but that's why Kyle Larson's going to have a hard time at Martinsville. Going out and getting 7 points at this point in the season with the competition the way it is, with how dialed in these guys are now, good luck, dude. I'm just telling you, they're all going to be running in the top 10. At least I expect them to. They're all going to be running in the top 10 come Phoenix. And you're going to see everybody running the top 10 at Martinsville, I think, except for maybe the 22, maybe the 45 at Reddick. You never know. Maybe they
I
work
think
on some stuff, but it's going to be hard.
I think to get Christopher Bell out of where he's at in third place right now, I think he's going to have a bad day at Martinsville.
I
I
agree.
mean, Christopher Bell has been on point. Christopher Bell led how many laps at Homestead this weekend? He led
Not sure. He led quite a few.
yeah, like 60 something
Yeah,
laps or something like that,
I can't
which is
remember.
impressive with all the lead changes we had.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's a fair
you
point.
know, it was it's going to be tough for these guys, Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney to do something here at Martinsville and find their way into the championship
Well,
fold.
Kyle Larson too. I mean, I know Kyle Larson's won here before, but he will openly tell you that win shocked him because this is not his best track. He struggles at times at this track. So there's a lot of drivers that do not struggle at this track that are in the top eight. Look at William Byron. He's won here multiple times, if I recall correctly. I mean, Christopher Bell is going to run fine here. Joey Logano can run fine here. Denny Hamlin can really run good here. Ryan Blaney can really run good here. Let's not forget this is how he kind of punched his ticket. He kind of called his shot before the championship right there. Chase Elliott's won here before. You've had drivers that have had to win their way in that go on and win championships here at Martinsville. So if I'm Kyle Larson, one of these guys behind me winning the race is worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just worst case scenario. And then if none of them do when they're weighing, he still has to get clear of 7 points in William Byron at this track, buddy. I'm going to tell you that's not going to be easy. I'm just being realistic here.
I
It's going
will
to be hard
say
for him.
I will say maybe the only thing Larson has going for him, he really performed at Bristol earlier in the playoffs, so maybe he can bring some of that short track magic with him this weekend to Martinsville. I don't know if he'll be able to do it in such dominant fashion, but I'm not going to count the guy out just yet. We could get 5 laps into this race and they could wad him up, and there could be a lot of playoff drivers out.
Yep. So this kind of leads us to kind of one of our. We were talking about this before the podcast. Imagine if Tyler Reddick goes to Phoenix and wins his championship. This finish to this race, this last lap pass that he's pulled off, will forever be linked directly with this championship.
Mhm.
The two will be tied together forever. So we have the ability to have something really cool happen in this sport where, man, you could market it well, and you instantly know that if Tyler Reddick goes and wins at Phoenix, you instantly know. You don't even have to think about it. You know that it's going to go down as an all-time classic, period, forever, right then and there. So you have the ability to have something really cool happen. Now, I'm not saying that I'd be upset if Joe Logano goes out and wins his championship. I think you can make a case that either one of those scenarios would be very fun.
So
But
here's my only argument with that. I agree with the Reddick statement where it'll probably be the first playoffs in this format to where it's like legendary status, where it's talked about if Tyler Reddick can go on and win the final four, and I then it'll be talked about forever, you know. But I think if the opposite for Joey Logano because of what happened with Alex Bowman, and I think it'll have an asterisk next to it, and I think when you have it one way or the other if either one of those guys win. You know what I'm saying? Where it proves that okay, NASCAR was onto something with this playoffs, the way they do their playoffs. Also, if you have Logano win, I think if as a fan base, people are going to be like, "See, this is why this playoff
yeah,
strategy is
I was gonna
bullshit."
say I think you're being way nicer to our fan base than they deserve by saying that
Yeah,
you don't think it would necessarily be a classic if Logano goes out there and wins this championship. I don't think this NASCAR fan base would ever let NASCAR live it down forever.
yeah.
That you could theoretically, because I mean, and I'm not one of these people. I think the Kyle Busch, his first championship, he won legitimately. Now, did he break his legs earlier in the season? Yes, he did. And NASCAR gave him an exemption. The dude broke both of his legs at Daytona. I feel like it's warranted. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So yes, I'm going to give that guy an exemption. And yes, he got into the playoffs, but I don't care what anybody says. From the moment he got back, he was the best driver in the sport immediately, all over again. With 2 mess up legs, he had to have surgery again in the offseason because his legs were still all screwed up. Didn't matter. Didn't stop him. Didn't slow him down. He was the best driver. Period. Um, I it just would not surprise me to see Joe Logano go out there and just rob the bank here. And
He
then
does
yes, we're going to have some discussions on
he
this
does well at
podcast. Every
Phoenix.
podcast as well. He
Yeah.
does well at Phoenix, and he's been proven that if they get time to concentrate on one task late in the season like this, they can pull it off. Paul Wolf and him can pull it off. So that's it would be cool to see Reddick in Heinz, just kind of wrap this up. It would be cool to see Reddick win the championship so that you could always kind of have that link to one iconic moment that got you to that championship. Sometimes sports lends itself to that, where there's such an iconic moment, you know, and silly as this is, but you could go to teams rally around all sorts of stuff. The St. Louis Blues rallied around a song that they kept hearing at a bar in Philadelphia.
Cardinals did it over a squirrel.
Squirrel, rally squirrel. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just interesting to watch. But so let's go ahead and start getting into our picks for next week. And so the next race that we have here is at Martinsville Speedway. It's the Xfinity 500. That's going to be running on Sunday, November 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I guess that since you won, I'll go ahead and go. Uh, this is not really that tough of a decision for me. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think he has to win. I don't think Chase Elliott is a, how do I word this? I feel like he's the least likely out of all those drivers that have to win of like just wadding up on the last lap going. You know what I mean? I feel like he'll still
Mhm.
bring it home. If he can't win, he'll still bring it home in second or third. That's just, I could be completely wrong on that, but I feel like he's a safer pick of the people that need to win. So yeah, I'll go ahead and go with old Chase Elliott.
All right. Well, you mentioned that I won last week, so we're gonna mark that down for the Special Olympics. You got to
For
win.
sure. For sure.
I don't think I'm anywhere near winning this whole out of 10, and I think maybe if I pick my last two correctly, I might we might have a tie. I
Right.
think you and Colin are pretty much neck and neck. I think I honestly the only other one I won was when I picked Joey Logano for the first race and he won it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm shooting pretty good for overall winners. So I spoke to Colin earlier. He said he wants to go with Ryan Blaney as his
Okay.
first pick.
That's good. Okay. I'll take that. I like
So
that pick. It's a solid one.
he's looking to see two Penske Fords in the Final Four. And I can't root
That's
against
dangerous.
Blaney,
Wow.
especially after the performance he put on this weekend at Homestead. I think he did a good job. He was
And
driving
last year.
hard.
And last
Yeah,
year, this is
and
how he won the
he's
whole
last
thing,
year's
baby.
champ. Last year's champ. So
And he won this race to get there. You know, he's done it before. It's repeatable. Yeah, at least you have to tell yourself going into the weekend that we've done it once. Of course, we can do it again.
so as of right now, I'm looking at my champion four, and I've got Tyler Reddick, who just won this weekend. I've got Joey Logano, who won the weekend prior.
This is silly.
I've got
Rub it in.
Christopher Bell,
Yeah, yeah, rub it in.
who who is currently sitting at third plus 29 points.
Yeah.
The only person I'm missing is Kyle Larson.
Yep. Yep. It's gonna be
And
tough for him too.
I'm gonna go with Kyle Larson. I'm gonna put my gut on my
Wow.
champion forward, and I'm gonna go with Kyle Larson.
I mean, that takes some guts. Because I really do believe that this. I'm not saying that I don't. I think that Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels are a good enough team to where they can go out and find the point differential they need, as long as somebody behind them does not win. I think that they have the ability to play their cards properly. Cliff Daniels is very smart. Kyle Larson is obviously very skilled. I think that they can get it done. It's just, man, they would much rather be wanting to try to get this done than another track, in my opinion. I don't think that if they had it their way, they'd be picking Martinsville to try to make this up. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't. I don't really have anything else. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll go into our too fast exiting segment. And I know exactly what my too fast exiting segment is going to be about, and that is going to be about the number one pit stall at times did not help Tyler Reddick on pit road here at Homestead, especially if it was under green. It was maybe hampering him a little bit. And I thought that was interesting because as soon as they start this race, they're already talking about how important it was for Tyler Reddick to win this race so he could get the number one pit stall and had the advantage coming off pit road. Then you saw all these green flag stops that these drivers that already had full runs. So under yellow, you make it to like that commitment cone, and that's where the cameras are. Well, I mean, on green flag pit stops, you're then having to drag race these people on the apron, and these people with the momentum coming out were going much faster than him, and were blowing his doors off coming out of the pits when during green flag stops. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's not something I've seen in quite some time where I know that Christopher Bell last weekend picked a different pit stall at Las Vegas because they had seen some data. They got beat by people in that pit stall, I think, two races in a row. And now you see this. Maybe there is something to it. Maybe the crew chiefs have figured something out here a little bit. That maybe there are some pros and cons. If you think you're going to have a green flag race, maybe you don't always pick that number one stall. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that number one stall looked pretty slick too. He was blowing the tires off the whole way out. It kind of seemed like so, and then the car would bog down a little bit before he would get back up and moving. So that's a pretty good take there, Marty. I don't really have anything for too fast exiting. That actually goes perfect with too fast exiting because
There
it
you go.
was pit road related. So
There you go. Sunday, November 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is going to be played on NBC, Martinsville Speedway, the Xfinity 500.
looking forward to it. Another thing, Colin's not here tonight, but we're talking about doing a live broadcast during the Phoenix finals. So if you guys are interested in it, leave a comment down below. Let us know how you feel. We'll do a live show, kind of us watching the race all together. I think we're going to go to Colin's house for it if we can manage. And we're going to watch this race. And, you guys can tune in, listen to our commentary, probably watch me get drunk and scream at the TV, which it'll be a good time. So let us know what you think below, if it's a good idea. And, we might do some other stuff later on with some of our other channels streaming, us watching the games and stuff like that. So if that's all you've got, Marty,
That's
that's
all
good
you
with
got,
me.
baby.
All right, everybody, don't forget to tune in on Sunday, and we will see you next week. I'm Josh. That's Marty. This is Splash and Go. Check our socials. We will see you later.